It's FoosTalk Live.
You talking to me?
Compelling and lively banter.
Are you going to talk to us?
Talking foosball.
Foosball was how I measured my value as a man. You took that away.
Players and fans, promoters and pros. Unedited and raw.
Talk.
Living in the moment.
We have a lot of important things to talk about.
All while practicing social distancing.
Cool. We'll talk. No big whoop.
Let's get this thing started. FoosTalk Live. It's FoosTalk Live. Once again, here we are. I'm Tom Robinson, ready for another fantastic evening of talking about foosball because, well, we can't play very much. We can practice and kind of have some pickup games, but we can't play competitively. So here we are once again, this being our 11th episode, being brought to you tonight by 518 Prints, one of the finest printers of promotional items, t-shirts, jackets, hoodies, and foosball apparel. Also being brought to you by Foosballers, the movie, the spectacular Joe Hesslinger documentary about the sport of foosball. Download your copy now at foosballersmovie.com. Also brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, dedicated to promoting the sport through school systems of America. And, of course, we want to mention our friends, Foos by Tony and Foos by Brendan, the new Foos by system that you, too, can learn from a pro when it comes to improving your game. So it's always a good thing to have a pro on hand, especially when it comes to being a commentator. So once again, I would like to welcome my good friend and partner in this venture of FoosTalk Live, Jim Stevens. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Tom Robinson. Great to be with you again on a Sunday night. Here is we're really kicking off summer, and the weather is warming. It's around 90 degrees every day here in Durango. Although I've taken the kids camping the last 4 weekends in a row.
Nice.
Two reasons. One, they're kids. Okay, that's number one. Get them out of the house, get them active, get them to sleep early. And the other is because I live in certainly one of the most beautiful places, I believe, in the world, here in the San Juan Mountains of southwest Colorado. And there are so many options for us to head up into the mountains, find a national forest campground, and really have a great time as we did this weekend. So great to be here on a Sunday night. Looking forward to tonight's show. I think it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's we're 1 week away, actually less than that, 6 days a week from the 4th of July, 6 days away from that big holiday when we can all kind of, how do we say, let loose a little bit. Although this year, I'm not sure about fireworks displays. Now, where you live in Colorado, what are the plans? What are they going to do? Any kind of public displays?
No public displays, although about half the time since I've lived here in Durango, and that's going back 10 or 11 years, half the time because of the dry weather and the chance of fires, the fireworks show has been postponed till a later part of the year.
Okay.
So not expecting any big fireworks shows here. Fireworks within the city are illegal. That doesn't always stop people, of course. But it is going to be interesting to see how this 4th of July plays out. And of course, 4th of July, traditionally going all the way back to, I believe, 1986, has been most of the time, except for the last few years, the weekend of the American National Championships. And,
right.
And as we've done a couple of times already this year, we are going to be celebrating the Nationals coming up here in the next week. We're going to upload a couple of classic Nationals videos to Inside FoosTV. So we'll have more news on that as we move forward. But, we can't go to the Nationals. We can't watch the Nationals live. Yeah. But we can remember and celebrate some of the great moments in American National Championship history.
Well, there's always that. And I mean, it's about heritage anyway. So we're celebrating the heritage of this great nation. And we're also celebrating the heritage of what is foosball and what will once be foosball.
Yes.
Again, very soon in the near future with any kind of luck. So, well, 4th of July, like any other holiday, of course, it's all about adding a little spice to life. And I believe our guest this evening, our guest commentator, is going to be someone who can do just that.
I think so too. And guest contributor, guest commentator, a guy who contributes to every conversation he is in. And we've already announced who it is, but we'll hold off a little bit here and actually announcing him. I think he's due to come on at 8:15 his time, Central Time, 9:15 Eastern. Looking forward to that, but continue, please, sir.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, it's the other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to summer traditions. We've actually established a tradition here at FoosTalk Live when it comes to drinking the IPA of the week. Right, we do our due to sample another IPA because we love it so much. So, Jim, I think maybe without further ado, we should do that. I would like you to go ahead and tell me what you've got in your palm at the moment.
Well, this week I am once again staying within the state of Colorado because we do have so many great microbreweries here in this state, and I'm going with one out of the Eddie Line Brewery in Buena Vista, Colorado, called the Cranky Anchor. It was actually the 2014 World Beer Championship silver medalist for best IPA. It's 7% alcohol, 70 on the IBU scale. It's a combination of Eldorado and Mosaic hops, very drinkable. With citrus and floral overtones. That's the Cranky Anchor out of Eddie Line Brewery.
Now, wait a second. Isn't the Cranky? I think Cranky Anchors were like a comedy series about making prank phone calls or something like that.
I believe you're right, and that is true. And I'm not sure I ever watched it. And maybe I did once or twice, but we'd have to go back 10 or 20 years on that, I think.
Yeah, I think it was puppets they used to prank phone calls. Yeah. Interesting while it lasted, but Cranky Anchors. I love that name. That's awesome. Yeah. That's good stuff.
And it has a great label. We talked about that last week. They're kind of like movie posters. They attract you to the film, or in this case, they attract you to the beer. And so many of the great microbreweries are doing such good work, both with their beers and with their artwork as well. All right.
And
what is your choice? Yeah. What are you drinking this week?
Okay. Because I know you're a huge baseball fan. I had to do this for you tonight. Now, I was raised in central New York, only 20 minutes from the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
In Cooperstown, New York. So, there is a place that's been around the Cooperstown area now for probably 20 plus years, but a phenomenal brewery called Brewery Omegang.
Huh.
And they're in this part of the country are very well known for a lot of their varieties of recipes that they've cooked up. But they do it all right there, just outside the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And so tonight, with a Brewery Omegang IPA, which is called Nirvana.
Oh, nice.
And for a change, I'm actually having something out of a can. Normally, I have something out of a bottle, but it's crisp, it's bold, it's fresh. Let's see here. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's actually, that's really rather tasty. I haven't had this one yet. Nirvana.
Is it a double, a triple, or a home run?
It looks like a home run.
Outstanding.
And it's 6.5% volume by alcohol, or alcohol by volume. It says to serve at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so I did refrigerate it. Mm-hmm. But very tasty. So,
interesting tidbit about IPAs, real quick, Tom, is they should always be refrigerated. If you go to a store and you see them on out on a display out on the floor, don't buy them. You want that beer to have always been refrigerated, and most of the great breweries, most of the really good breweries, make sure that happens because it does have a shelf life. It is something that can spoil, so you want that beer cold.
Well, without further ado, now that we've taken care of our IPA, I would like to welcome on our guest commentator for the week to bring more spice to our life here at FoosTalk Live. Please welcome Mark Torres. Welcome back, Mark.
Hey, guys. I couldn't help myself. I told Jim I'd call in at 8:15.
Yeah.
You guys talking about beer. And I don't drink beer. I drink Grey Goose on the rocks. So I just thought I'd tell you that my favorite beer is actually straight vodka.
I see.
And that's my whole deal, man. No, I thought I'd jump in a little bit early and engage with you guys. Thanks for having me on the show again. I'm excited to be back. It's a week later, and I'm happy.
Absolutely. Alcohol by volume, 40% on that one, right?
Well, so here's the thing, man. Listen, I wish. I mean, I'm not a recreational drinker. I don't. So I wish I did have that aptitude where I could enjoy a beer and hang out and have 2 or 3 and get a buzz. I'm a sport drinker, right? So I drink like 3 times a year. 3 times a year, like at a foosball tournament, I'll drink. But when I drink, I drink, right?
Yeah, so it still averages out to about 1 per day for that year.
Right.
You're a competitor all the way around. I'm sure. That makes a lot of sense. Well, Mark, welcome back. I know that in commemoration of you returning, and we do appreciate you hanging out. First of all, I'd like to go back in time with you. I think it's a tradition right here, not only Foosball Radio, but FoosTalk Live. I'd like to know more about your past when it comes to foosball. When was the first time you touched a foosball table?
Okay, here's my story, man. I'm going to try to keep it interesting.
Right.
My brother, so there's 6 of us. And my brother is 13 years older than me. And so he was we had a TS table in our house. I was way too young. I was like 5 years old. But I still remember my brother actually used to play at a place, at an arcade, and he would play against Chris Doobie and Thor and other guys that would end up becoming, prominent pros and masters. But he was like the rookie Wally guy, and he had, he had foosball dreams and wanted to be on the tour, and just like so many thousands of others who never hit the apex of excellence to be competitive. The game passed him by, and he goes in the military. So I had very early exposure just to a table when I was 5 years old that I can remember. And then flash forward, and then now we're in 1988, 89. My brother actually went to the military, comes back. He starts playing foosball at a local arcade, not far from where I ended up going to high school. And I have really besides that memory, I have really no interest in the game. My brother starts playing, and I meet a poor kid, and he ends up being a great friend of mine. His name is Fernando Rosa. I'm not sure if he has a new name now. It's Fernando de Rosa. Back in the day, he was Fernando Rosa.
Great player.
Great player. You know him, Tom? You know Fernando? Yeah, he ends up being one of the better players on the tour for a few years. Anyway, so we're 15 years old, and I'm hacking around in this arcade. I meet Fernando, and he's super skilled. I mean, we're talking about a poor kid who stuffs the goals, and he can't. I mean, he's like they're scrapping for every quarter, man. Back then, foosball was 50 cents, and you fought for your 50-cent rack.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, man, it was a war zone, man. It was no joke. And to amplify that, we lived in barely middle class area. So there was actual riots and gang fights in this arcade. So
wow.
It permeated. The competitiveness on the foosball table permeated the other types of divisions. So it was an intense style of foosball. So here's what happens. We're playing foosball, 15 years old. And I start to really to enjoy the game. My brother decides he's going to get a table. I get a foosball table at my house in my garage. I got guys over. We're practicing and playing. And I really don't know how bad I am. I'm not very good at the game. I don't know because I've been hacking around and beating other players that were lesser skilled than me. But I don't understand how weak I am at the game. I practice. I get a poster on my wall. It's of Steve Murray. It's the old, I don't know if you remember this poster, Jim. It's the 1989 poster. It's the year after he won 4 events, I believe, of that tournament.
Yeah.
So now
the worlds. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it was actually 4 events. He tripled, and he won. He won designated 2, I think. It was actually quadruple.
So call that 3 1/8. 3 1/8.
Yeah, there you go. 1/8. So now I'm starting to get into this. This is a thing, man. There's icons in this game, and there's these amazing players, and I want to get really, really good at the game. I practice in my garage through the whole summer for the whole year, and my whole intent is to become great at the game. So fast forward, I go to a tournament in Las Vegas, and it's a $5,000 tournament, and I get crushed. At this point, I'd never even won a draw your partner. So I'm just getting slammed at these Friday DY tournaments every single week, getting my ass handed to me. I go to this tournament, and I see this is a fond memory for me. I meet Lewis Cartwright for the first time. He wouldn't remember me back then because he was an aspiring novice and I was a total rookie.
Talking about Lewis Cartwright, the Hall of Famer, one of the great players. Yeah.
I meet Lewis Cartwright. Really get to know Adrian Zamora down there. And these are guys, I'm the rookie, really been playing 8 or 9 months. So I'm at a $5,000 tournament. I'm down at this tournament, and I'm really inspired at this tournament because I meet a kid who will probably barely remember me now. His name is Joe Levstick. He's out of Arvado, Colorado, and his partner, Sean McClure. Do you know these names at all, where you're at, Jim? Joe Levstick and Sean McClure?
Vaguely familiar, maybe.
Oh, man. So
I might have been at that Las Vegas tournament, by the way.
So this is 1989, okay? 1989. I'm there. Joe Levstick wins amateur singles and novice singles. But the thing that was inspiring for me was he had adopted a hybrid game of Todd Lafredo and Tom Spear. So it was the first time I'd ever seen a persona, someone who was duplicating masters. And he had the whole thing, he would never show any emotion. Everything he did was really a non-emoting stoic game. That was a Spear part of his game. But then he had a hammer dead row pull shot and a really slick 5-bar. So he had adopted Lafredo and Spear. So I decided I'm going to make my game exactly like this guy's game. So here's how the story ends. Sadly, here's how the story ends. I dedicate myself to duplicating this Lafredo Spear persona / game. And it's just a few months later, that's the 1990 World Championships. So I practiced straight through for a whole year. Oh, he was wearing his Amateur Doubles World Championship jacket. So I'll leave that out. Him and Sean were the 1989 Amateur Doubles World Champions. Okay, he's wearing his jacket. I decide I'm going to be Lafredo and Spear. Fernando and I play at this tournament, and Fernando's supposed to be the forward. We play Robert Mars. We play Terry Moore. We're all amateurs at the same time. And what happens is we have to switch. So Fernando and I have to switch places. I play forward. Fernando plays goalie for me. And that was the first tournament I ever won as a forward. That's the first tournament I won. I had not won a draw partner before.
So you had never won a tournament, and then you go and you win the World Championships.
And this is why I'm proud of that. And I won a bunch of trophies since then. I still have that trophy in my basement right now. It's the only trophy I still have from Foosball is the 1990 Amateur Doubles World Championships. The reason why I'm proud of that is because I had not won a single event. I think I mentioned that. But that was back in 1990. It was a mess. They had TS pros were playing in amateur, and there was a weird ranking system. There was like, and it gets exaggerated over time, but it was like 300 teams in that event. We had taken, we'd seen the brackets, and we knew there was a lot of teams back then. So it was really amazing for me, and it was all downhill after that, to be frank, because I got a table in 89. I won 1990 Amateur Doubles of the World. I sold my table in 93, 27 years ago, and never bought another table or practiced meaningfully since then. Everything since, it's been really, really kind of a haphazard, other things happen. But my whole foosball story centers around one win in 1990, and from then a bunch of haphazard hacking around. And I won pro doubles on tour. I won a bunch of novice and expert stuff. I won a bunch of tables on tour. Go ahead.
I got to tell you that because I knew you had won that World Championship. When you applied for the job at Inside Foos to be a commentator, I looked at that and I said, "Look at that! He has won a World Championship," and that really that tipped it completely in your direction. I said, "Okay, Mark, come on board, come on." And
oh my gosh! Thank you, Jim. That pedigree right there.
Now, the other thing I gleaned from that story is I'm trying to picture Fernando de Rosa, Mark Torres playing goalie for him, and Mark says, "Hey, Fernando, let's switch here at the World Championships," and I'm trying to picture Fernando's reaction then. I know what it would have been 8 or 10 years later. He would have just laughed at you.
He did.
But at that point, I'm trying to focus on what his reaction would have been back in 1989 or 1990 when that would have happened. And apparently, it worked out well.
Well, so we played Blaine Steinmetz and Frank Dawes from Oklahoma.
Amazing that you remember these names.
Oh, it's a really fond memory. And so it's 1990 amateur doubles. We had Oklahoma versus California. We had one person rooting for us. Phil Schlaper, Dr. Doom, I'll never forget. And there was like 40 people from Oklahoma rooting against us. Honestly, God, true story. We won the winner's bracket, okay? We lost the first, so it's 2 out of 3. We lost the first 3 games. So we lost 2 straight in the first set. We lost the first game of the second set. We won. Fernando and I switched back. So Fernando goes back in the forward in the finals. We win the second game. In the third game, I swear to God, I scored 4 from the back. And that's how we won that amateur doubles 1990 World Championship.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Boom.
So I've always introduced him, Tom, as a world champion, Mark Torres. Anytime that we've been, and we will from now on, Mark.
You know what? You're trying. I'll tell you what. You're trying to hurt my feelings. I'll tell you what, Jim. I'm in the finals of the All Decades Fantasy Foosball Tournament that Dan Schurmeyer is hosting.
Yeah.
I'm in the finals with team number 8. I'll tell you one other thing. I'm an alternate. I've not won a single match, and we're about to win this thing. And once I win this tournament, I'm going to wear a jacket. And that'll be my second favorite win next to the 1990 amateur.
Yeah, that's very close to riding Fernando de Rosa's coattails to a world championship. Very similar.
My whole foosball career. Hey, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I won a pro doubles on tour. I literally left my trophy. I left my trophy on the stand. I won it with Adam Gilson because the only trophy that ever mattered to me was that damn 1990 amateur doubles, man. So there you go, man. It's nostalgia for you.
Now it sounded like a bell ringing. Who was that? Your glass? Is that what that was?
I don't know. That wasn't me, man. That's probably Jim. Jim, you ringing the bell, baby?
That was the end of round 1.
You are correct, sir. You are correct, sir. Wow. Well, it's now you have to kind of bring me up to date because I'm wondering how you and Jim actually ended up together doing commentary with Inside Foos videos.
I want to hear Jim's memory. Jim, I talked a lot right now. Let's hear. What's your memory of this, man?
Boy, I didn't know I was going to have to come up with this one. That's a very good question, and I'm trying to go back and think of our origin. Mark, maybe you can trigger my memory a little bit.
I can tell you. Damn it, I can tell you. I'm trying to remember the year, man. First, I can't even get the year right. It was early 2000s, easily.
Yes, early 2000s.
Yeah, and so I see random people going up there and helping Jim out, and Jim's got his mainstays. Evan Stachulek was high on your list back then. I'm trying to figure out who else I would regularly see up there.
Tom Yore.
Tom Yore, yeah. And I kind of mosey up there, and it's really kind of casual. I'm like, hey, man, you mind if I sit down, put the headset on, and listen? And I kind of knew I wanted to engage. And so Jim, he kind of barely knows me. So I think he was that's how it led into it. He kind of, I started yapping a little bit, and he figures out that I can articulate and form a complete sentence. I got, probably IQ at least around 25. And so he's like, yeah, I'll take any warm body with a heartbeat to pass the time.
That is not true. No, but I'll give you this, Mark. And Tom, this is something I've always said. I will try anybody up there in the booth once. Okay?
Once.
Yeah, I'll try anybody once, and if they show any sort of talent, I don't have high expectations for the first time, but I do remember the first time you and I worked together, Mark, and I do remember how I was kind of blown away by how sharp this guy was, how funny he was, but bottom line, it was how well he knew the sport. Not only the history of the sport, but the particulars, the strategies of playing the game. Mark can be irreverent. He can be hilarious. He can be obnoxious at times. But the one current that runs through all of it is his knowledge of the game and his appreciation of the history of the game. And that shone through. And that really allowed Mark to get away with a lot of the things that he got away with over the years. But I do remember the reaction I had to you, Mark, the first time you sat in with me. I was highly impressed by what I heard.
Well, I was probably nervous as hell, to be frank. I was nervous multiple times after that, so I imagine I was really nervous. I'm grateful for the recognition, and I really love the game that much. I was very studious about the game, very analytical about the game. I think I mentioned this last time. I didn't work hard, right? I didn't work hard. I didn't really put the time in. I didn't put the hours in. I was lazy. But the other pieces, I really felt like I had. I think I had it between the ears. So I hope this is kind of closing the loop on my history with foosball in this regard. Competitively, and I think I showed flashes of it. I think when I played with Billy a couple of years back, it's up there upstairs. I can block these guys. I can even clear the ball. But you know what? I had not touched the foosball table for literally, before that tournament, a year. At least I had not touched the foosball table. So Billy and I played together, and I could still feel the pieces there, but the hard work was never there for me to execute at a high level. Like I probably wish I could go back. I would have been able to been a better player. Anyway.
Well, it's never too late. I mean, there's always the senior tour.
Yeah, those classic doubles or whatever, right, Jim?
That's right. No, and you talked about playing with Billy Pappas. I'd forgotten that, but 3 or 4 years ago, Mark at the Hall of Fame Classic in Las Vegas played goalie for Billy Pappas and played really well. In fact, that's on. We had a couple of your matches on the Inside Foos videos, and Mark played very well for a guy who hadn't played in a year.
Well, that answers my question, actually. I was going to ask, I mean, were you ever featured on an Inside Foos video as a player? And now I know the answer to that. So, okay, that takes my thunder away.
Sorry, buddy.
No. So here's the thing. You guys have been a witness to many, many tournaments. How many have you actually worked together?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, that's considering Las Vegas and the Tornado World Championships, which I think was probably all of them. I'm guessing that there's been about 12 or 15 at least, I would think, Mark, that we've covered together. Maybe 8 to 10, 8 to 12, somewhere in there. But a lot of matches, a lot of very entertaining matches. Mark has sat next to me in some of the biggest matches in the sport's history over the last 20 years. And it's always been, the bottom line for me is I want to have fun up there, right? I want great matches. Yeah. I want to have great interaction with my partner, Brad Anderson, another guy that we're such good friends that it really shows. And Mark and I became very good friends very quickly. And I want to have fun. And Mark was as fun of a commentator partner as I've ever had as an expert analyst. Mark, number one all time. If I had a top 5 list of most fun expert analysts on the Inside Foos telecast, Mark Torres would be number 1.
Wow. That's fantastic.
That's flattering, man.
Yeah, that's very cool. Wow. So, that actually brings to mind, we do have another caller coming in here, by the way. We want to welcome Brad back to FoosTalk Live. Brad, thanks for joining us here tonight at FoosTalk Live.
Man, you guys ought to get a room.
I knew that was coming.
What can I say? It's just this mutual admiration society going on here. We want to talk sheer numbers, though, Jim. Come on.
Yeah.
Sheer numbers.
Sheer numbers. Brad Anderson.
He's number 4, I think, right? Somewhere between number 2 and 5. Somewhere between number 2 and number 5.
Number 1 all time, most matches worth with me in the booth is absolutely Brad Anderson. Number 1. I don't think it's even close, Brad. I think you are number 1 by far. Matches worth.
Yeah, like I say, I think Mark was in there somewhere between number 2 and number 5.
Number 2 and number 5, somewhere in there. Yeah, like
yes.
Bobby as all time goalies.
Well, I didn't want to name any names, but yeah. No, I just want to say because Mark relating his playing history there. Now, Jim, you and I both have played events with Mark.
Yes, we have.
Oh no.
Yes, we have.
As in?
Did we lose you, Brad?
Elaborate, please.
It sounds like we've lost Brad temporarily there.
Maybe we didn't. Maybe he just tapped out right there because he knew it was coming.
Yeah,
I played an event with Mark Torres. Drop the mic.
yeah. I can tell you what, man. Was sometimes not playing, really practicing anything for 20 years shows, right? And it showed the most when I played with Jim. And Jim, I don't know if we won a match, man. I think we played a open doubles or pro doubles at Texas State, and I think I just laid down.
We did win some matches.
Did we
somehow? I'm not sure how we did it. People don't block push kicks nearly as well as they used to. But it was also a lot of fun playing with him. And Mark, again, is a lot of fun. And hopefully Brad's going to call back in here.
Yeah, he's back.
Is he back with us? Okay. Go ahead, Brad.
Oh, yes. I didn't know for some reason, my tablet decided to restart itself, so I had to switch devices here. I am in my basement. I'm not in my car, so that's
good
off right now. But so yeah. Anyways, my point being, I don't even know what you guys talked about well enough. But again, Jim and I, we both played with Mark. It was entertaining, but I don't know how many times Mark has played with the same person more than once.
There's so much truth to that. There's so much truth to that. That's hilariously funny. I don't think Liz Hill will ever play with me ever again.
Yeah, no, she will one time. After she went off the air last week, she sent me a text. I will never play with Mark again. I think Brad, I believe I played with him once, and you played with him once. And so
I did. We played open doubles in Las Vegas once.
Wow.
And it was.
I don't even remember.
It was.
I don't even remember. It was so bad. I don't remember it.
Yeah, I can believe it. Well, I can tell you another story, but I don't know if it was the same weekend. But Mark's. We had a really good time. Again, we didn't play a lot of matches, but the most fun I had the whole time was watching Mark try to block Frank Bolecha's push kick.
Oh no!
Mm-hmm. No. Frank Bolecha, the great player out of Hawaii, who had a very, very good push kick. Yeah.
It didn't go well, but
that's awesome. Was it racing him?
the other Las Vegas miracle. Mark was staying in the same room we were, and somehow maybe 3:30 in the morning there was like kind of a scratching at the door.
Scratching.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of was a weird noise on the hall. So I don't know whoever got up and opened the door, and Mark just kind of wandered in and hit the floor, and I think he just stayed there. And I'm not sure how he actually found the room. That was the miracle.
Wow. Yeah.
Little known Vegas trick. You write the room number on your wrist. That's a trick.
Oh, what it is?
No. Oh yeah. You don't want to get you don't get your ass kicked trying to open up someone else's door. That's a bad one.
Well, that would explain a few things. That comes from experience. Then is that what you're trying to say?
So tell me the truth here, guys. I mean, because we're not playing competitively, isn't it the things that happen after the matches you miss the most about not playing right now?
I can't remember much after like midnight. So I don't know, that's a blur, man.
It's a great point, though. It's a great point, though, Tom, because absolutely it is. Some of the most fun evenings I've had at a foosball tournament have been at 10 or 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, right, guys? When people are done playing and they're ready to sort of decompress a little bit, or and just get on a table, play some 4-on-4 or some
Sure.
2-ball roller ball or whatever. Those are some of the most fun, Tom. And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to. It is. It's those relationships. Yeah. It's the fun that you have, and that whole foosball family thing we always talk about. That really it makes the sport special, and that is something certainly I miss both as a commentator and as a player. Are the relationships that we have with and the fun that we have on those Sunday nights.
Oh yeah. No, it's the couple of times that I've had the privilege and the opportunity to be there. I mean, I was exhausted after the weekend, but it was well worth it. Well worth it.
Hey, I got a question now, you guys, because this is inspiring a certain thought here. So the tables are mic'd, and the tables used to be mic'd and piped into the hotel rooms. Where oh yeah. So like it was our way of being
pre-live streaming. Yes, pre-live streaming. We would go into the hotel rooms, and a lot of times people would forfeit out of matches because they were upstairs laying on their bed watching a match from table number 1.
So think about this. This has been very interesting because I've been in this scenario, and I'm going to ask the question. So there are times when I'd be at the table with the other pros, and we're talking about stuff, strategy or otherwise, that we should probably not be. We would not be talking about if we knew we were mic'd.
Oh.
So here's my question. What is the most controversial thing you guys remember being mic'd on a table? Is there anything you can remember that was recorded or otherwise? Anything good?
Yes.
Brad, you go first.
Wow, controversial. And we didn't usually get too much on the table mics, I don't think. Certainly not between matches. I think usually the audio is turned down on there. But, I mean, there have been a few times where there have been disagreements. I don't know if there's really anything controversial.
Well,
Jim, what do you got?
Well,
not that I can recall.
Right, and there have been a couple of occasions, and one in particular, when a names. I mean, we're going to leave the names out of it, but someone was admiring a lovely lady sitting in the crowd, really doing it rather explicitly on the mic with his wife upstairs watching in the hotel room.
Oh, see, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I don't know how that ended up. I think eventually it all kind of
was there
worked out.
All right. When was that, Jim? I need to look that up.
Well, I don't know that you can look it up anywhere, Brad. Maybe try Googling it if you want to. But no, I remember that. There was a few of them, some of which we really can't talk about on the air. But it was players, and of course we often forget, and we still often forget to turn the mic down in between matches, and so we have captured several rather interesting things over the years.
Jim gets a text to go, "Oh, the mic is open."
I remember on more than one occasion, masters would be talking about strategy, and other masters, and other masters would hear what the strategies were, or like some hook, some tell, or something, and end up making the rounds. That just got given away over a microphone.
That's crucial because it means whether or not you take first, second, third, fourth, that kind of thing. That's a big, of course.
It was mentioned before. I think last week you were talking about, and I wish I could have called then. I wasn't around, but we're talking about the 2006 Worlds and the Open Doubles final when Dave Gummison was wearing a mic. And the word that I remember getting, and I think we asked a bunch of people if they would wear the mic, and most of them refused because they were so afraid that someone, whether listening somehow was going to all of a sudden start passing strategy to these guys, and something like that. So it's kind of I don't know how that would work out. I wish we could talk to a few more people, but
have the attitude to take about a live mic for sure. Many a career outside foosball has been ended because of a live mic.
Yes,
but even at that time, though, I mean, there wasn't any way for anyone else to hear it except for us up in the booth. So
it was not live streamed, but boy, was it insightful. It was really interesting. In fact, that match
was
on Inside FoosTV. If you'd like to go check it out, at home.
But I can earnestly see why people don't, foosers especially. So there's all this minutia in foosball that the average player may or may not have the level of analytics, because we're talking about very small margins that separate the winning masters from the second place masters and the third place pros. So these are small margins, and it could be one single tell that someone has been holding on to for years. And there's been tells on Terry Moore's 3-bar that have haunted him that the top masters know about, and they don't share these things, or they even may learn about it later and still can't effectively correct it. So like you expose yourself when you're on a live mic, because they're going to see it later when they watch the video or Inside Foos. You give a detail away that you've coveted this secret about this other player that's given you an edge on that player. I can see why they'd kind of be careful about being mic'd.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Loose lips, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny because I'm glad, Brad, you're with us as well, because I'd like to throw this out to you guys because you have so much knowledge and so much history in this field. We're going to be introducing a new feature tonight, and it's called the FoosTalk Live Top 5. Now, it could be any number of things when it comes to the actual top 5 or any number of categories within the top 5 for FoosTalk Live, but it's something we're going to be doing every week. And I'd like to introduce our first top 5, and I want you guys to debate who you think belong in the top 5. And just to quantify this, no holds barred. All right?
No holds barred.
FoosTalk Live Top 5 is officially underway for this episode. This is episode 11, by the way.
You ready, Mark?
Are you ready?
Ready, man. I don't know. Let's see. What do you got? What's the question?
So let's, Brad.
Let me just say right now, you're all wrong.
Yeah. All right, you're all idiots. Not only you're wrong, you're idiots.
He wants debate, so let's do it. Let's throw down right now. Come on.
Top 5. All right, so top 5 lady players of all time, living or since passed away in foosball. Top 5 lady players in foosball.
I'll start off, Tom, and I'm going to count down from 5 to 1. I have at number 5, the number 5 greatest lady player, in my opinion, that I have seen and that I know of throughout the sport, is going to be someone we had as a guest a few weeks ago, and someone who joined us last week as well, and that's Liz Moore. Liz, one of only 3 players ever who have won world championships in women's singles, women's doubles, and mixed doubles. And one of the great players of all time. So number 5 for me, Mark Torres, is Liz Moore out of Oklahoma as the 5th greatest that I have seen.
All right.
Wow, so
how about you, Mark?
Go ahead, sorry. My turn? Are we good? I want. Am I good? Okay. I don't want to step on, I got a narrower window than you, Jim, because you got to see some of the players from the earlier era. And so I have Liz higher on my list, but I have number 5, Gina Murray, and I have the way I look at I like to look at grit, and I like to look at fire and passion, and I like to look at a grinder, and so having gone to the 5th game match ball in open singles versus Gina Murray. to get to 13th or something, and having fought her on doubles and seen her fight along Steve and seen her grind it out, I really love Gina Murray at that number 5 spot.
That's a great choice, and she really was gritty. Mostly a goalie, didn't necessarily have a lot of success as a forward, although some. Yeah. But that's a great choice, Mark. So you have Gina Murray, I have Liz Moore, Brad Anderson. Obviously, we have planned ahead for this. So if you can come up with a
right. I'm totally ready for this. Well, I'm going to be contrarian. I'm just going to start from the top because I'm still kind of have some things rattling around.
Let's take number 5.
Number 1 obviously is Cindy Head, just for the sheer length of her career, the success she's had, all the world championships. That's a pretty easy one. One I'm going to throw out there that I don't know if anybody knows that, but
taking a lot of thunder out of ours here, aren't you, Brad?
No. I want to put Lori Schrantz. I want to put Lori Schrantz out there.
Yeah, thanks for taking some of the thunder. All right,
let me
rework my notes here.
What position, Brad, do you want what Lori to get?
Well, like I said, I mean, number 2, I was going to put Lori Schrantz out there.
All right, number 2.
What I would like to do, I'd like to propose muting Brad. Because
he's interfering with our segment. This is an actual segment, Brad.
That's right. You can propose it, but we're not going to bring it up for a vote.
All right.
Well,
let us, Brad. How about this? How about real quick? How about you? Once Mark and I get done with our top 5 in reverse order, you go ahead and comment and bring it up. And you brought up a couple of great names, of course, and they may or may not appear on either Mark or I.
That'll work. Chris, you know how many.
Okay, so Jim, you go next. Give us your fourth choice.
At number 4, I have the aforementioned Lori Schrantz. Lori, while most of her success was as a goalie, it was in women's doubles, it was in mixed doubles, it was also in open doubles. She had several open doubles titles. Lori Schrantz, originally out of Texas, then moved up to Minnesota. I know, Brad, up into your neck of the woods. And when she was in a relationship with the late Jim Wiswell. It's truly, when you look back on the tournament soccer tour, I think when you judge the greatest lady players of the tournament soccer tour of the 1970s, Lori Schrantz is at the top of the list. So I have her, Mark Torres, at number 4.
I got Joy Stewart. And the reason why is I kind of like the purest game and the purest approach and call it conventional or old fashioned. I mean, she had a pull shot and she could hit every single hole. She was very astute, very bright, and once again was goalie focused. But I've seen her win her share with Rico and with Matt, and I've always been I've always just loved the game. I've loved all the functional utility as a goalie that she displayed.
Well, I'll give you a couple of things about her. She, I believe, won, believe it or not, 10 world championships. Most of those with Frederic Collignon in mixed doubles. And then she also won a couple with Moya Thielens in women's doubles. 10 world championships, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 9, I'd have to look it up. But a woman who does not get consideration for the Hall of Fame.
Why?
Despite the fact that she has won that many. I think people forget about her, and maybe she's overshadowed by her partners. When you're talking about Frederic Collignon, or you're talking about Moya Thielens, you're talking about 2 of the greatest players of all time. And so maybe she's overshadowed a little bit as only a goalie. So Mark Torres, your choice at number 4 is a good one.
How about number 3 for you, Jim?
Number 3 for me, of course, and we all miss her, Moya Thielens. Moya Thielens, certainly one of the greatest lady players of all time. To me, she's the greatest lady forward that certainly of the last 20 to 25 years in the modern era. Nothing against Cindy Head, who we'll talk about more, of course. But as a forward, Moya Thielens was sensational. She won 3 in a row, 3 world championships in a row with Laurette Gunther in the early 2000s, along with the ones, of course, with that Mark talked about earlier. But for me, Moya is at number 3 on the all-time list of greatest lady players of all time. And we miss her. She passed away now 5 or 6 years ago. A member of the United States Table Soccer Hall of Fame, Moya Thielens.
I have Liz at number 3. And, Liz was a superstar in the 90s, and she took her hiatus and came back, and she was a superstar when she came back. And she had all the grit, fire, and hard work and determination from the Florida players. She had her A game, and she fought and fought and fought. And, man, that girl emotes on and off the table. And I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to passion and commitment in any kind of craft, whether you're playing the violin or playing foosball. And so that was always appealing to me about Liz, but make no mistake, all the skill was there, all the training, all the determination. So she's my number 3.
And number 2, Jim?
Number 2, and it's a name that often gets forgotten about. But my number 2 is a lady who won a world championship on the tournament soccer table. She won a world championship on the dynamo table, and she won world championships on the tornado table. Tina Roton also passed away now 7 or 8 years ago. But Tina out of Colorado won 8 world championships, and again, one of only 3 lady players to have ever won world championships in the 3 major categories, and 8 overall on 3 different tables spanning the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. So Tina Roton, for me, is number 2.
I got Moya. Can I just jump right in? I got Moya at number 2, and enough can't be said about her game. Of course, her big open mix win as a forward with Garrett, and her other open mix titles, but doing it everywhere, singles, doubles, mixed. She won multiple events, men's events in the expert and novice doubles. I think she might have won a pro doubles. I'm not sure. Maybe that's just fleeting memory, but I feel like she won pro doubles as well. So where she might have had run-ins, and she did have her great open mix tour win with Garrett, but she was always competitive. And she, her 3-bar, I can't underestimate that gal's 3-bar. Her straight looked like her long, and if she was hot, she was going to score on anybody. So she's my number 2.
Yeah, and a great choice there, of course. Moya, sensational. You mentioned the Hall of Fame Classic when she won mixed doubles playing forward for Garrett Schirkenbach. We featured that on the channel a few months ago. And as I said, the greatest lady forward I've ever seen. And again, also someone that we loved hanging out with, loved spending some time with, and we all miss her very much.
So, and now we come to the final choice, and I think I can guess, but Jim, go ahead and give us your first.
Well, I mean, there's no question about it. Cindy Head, I think, at one point won 12 straight women's doubles and women's singles at the World Championships. For 12 straight years, she at least doubled. But the thing that really put her over the top for me is back in 2006, we were over in Italy. And she came over to compete for Team USA at that time, it was pre-World Cup or just after the first World Cup. And Brad, you remember this.
Absolutely.
When she faced Samantha DiPaolo, the great international European player out of Italy, in the finals of both singles and doubles, multi-table. She had never played on most of these tables, in any of the tables besides Tornado. And she came away with a singles win and a doubles win with Don Duquette at the International Multi-Table World Championship. She won 35 World Championships in this country and then added 2 more there in a multi-table format. And that did it all for me. At that point, I said, this is the greatest lady player, unquestionably, in the history of world foosball, not just the United States, but the greatest player in the history of the world.
Put Samantha at number 6.
Perhaps, and I've got a couple of honorable mentions, but Samantha, if we're going to look internationally, Samantha DiPaolo, the great European player, would certainly be in that area. And of course, we don't know a lot about her career because we're here in the United States, but just a wonderful, wonderful player. And there's a couple other honorable mentions, but I want to hear what Mark has to say about Cindy as well. I'm guessing right.
I'll say this about Cindy Head, and it was one of the more eye-opening and really revealing things for me about the Foosballers documentary. And it was Bowers who said it. So Bowers said there's a debate about who the best players are, but the debate is really dead because Lafredo is still here. And I'm gonna get to Cindy. But the point being is the great players at Foosball would have been great in any era if they continued to play. That is true. And Cindy Head is a reflection and representation of that. For Foosball, man or woman, she was great in the 70s, and she's great now, and that's because she's committed and dedicated. The time and energy have been there. She would have been great in any era, and I don't think there's any. Jim said it all. I don't think there's much else to say. It'll take a one heck of a career to take that from Cindy. I don't know if it could ever be done. Although we got some young gals coming up. Yeah,
I don't think it's possible to put together that kind of a consistency over such a long period of time to really dominate the sport. And you mentioned foosballers, and really I learned a lot more. And I know Cindy pretty well. I've had my ups and downs with her over the years, but watching her in foosballers really kind of opened up my heart to her. You know what I mean? Because it really talked about her on a personal level, and it really showed me a side of her that I don't think I'd ever seen before. And I found it one of the true highlights of that movie.
Yeah, if you only know Cindy Head by her demeanor on the table, you don't know Cindy Head at all.
Interesting. A law enforcement officer by profession and seems to be very well respected in all aspects of her life.
Yeah, it does seem that way. And she could be very difficult on opponents, no doubt about that. I mean, if she scored on you, she was going to let you know about it, and at times would almost cross the line of abuse at times because she just was so motivated to win, and because of that, she is truly the greatest champion we've ever seen. There's Frederick Collignon, who has won more than 100 world championships, I think, on all the different tables. And then there's Cindy Head in the high 30s as far as world championships, which is just remarkable.
Right.
Yeah, well, Jim, you mentioned that time in Italy that when Cindy Head played Samantha DiPaolo, and Samantha DiPaolo really was kind of the equivalent in Europe to Cindy Head. Very aggressive and very intimidating to the other women players.
Beat up on men on a regular basis. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember you and I were really looking forward to that matchup to watch those two play. And Samantha had nothing for Cindy. She was intimidated, and we'd never seen that. And not that we had a lot of exposure to Samantha DiPaolo, but we had seen her play, and we certainly knew her reputation. But she was no match for Cindy.
It was not a friendly match, put it that way.
No.
These two ladies competed very hard on the table and off the table as well. And again, that was a great event. The second time Brad and I had ever covered an international event. I think we actually live streamed it audio only that year because of the internet connection. But a great memory. And of course, again, establishing Cindy Head is unquestionably, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most, the greatest player in the history of world foosball among the ladies.
So it's unanimous for number one. No, so Brad, do you want to fill us in on the rest of your list?
No.
Okay.
Hey,
you mentioned Samantha DiPaolo being kind of an honorable mention. I also want to kind of throw Tiffany Moore in there as an honorable mention. Yeah. Tiffany had a wonderful career. And now that I think about it, I believe she may be the fourth player who had won singles, doubles, and mixed doubles at the World Championships. In fact, I'm convinced of it now. Yeah. So she also had won all of those. So I'm going to put her at number 6 with Liz's length of career, I think, really putting her above Tiffany Moore. Tiffany Bilirakis originally, then she married Tiffany Moore. In fact, she married her husband, Terry Moore, at the World Championships, I want to say 1996. And the Inside Foos cameras were there to cover the wedding at the World Championships that year. So how about that?
Now that's a really interesting story, Jim. You should give us the old tape of that. Put that up on Inside FoosTV.
Yeah, no, we should. And, I've often thought about going into business as a commentator. Supporting my foosball stuff by doing, weddings, commentating little league games, doing pre and post game interviews of the bride and groom. Or doing little league baseball. Or how about funerals and bar mitzvahs? The endless possibilities.
C-sections, Jim. You could do C-sections.
Oh, God. You're gonna have to drop the whole stroke at home thing too.
Yeah, right.
No.
Well,
where are we? What are we doing?
Right. So
just took a hard turn towards the curb there.
An indication we could kind of move on to another topic here, if you'd like. Let's do this.
Give me a second. Hold on.
All right.
Look at the size of that thing.
Oh. All right.
Cover your eyes. Cover your eyes.
Now, I got to say, Jim, you warned me about Mark. You warned me in advance here.
I did. I did warn you.
All right. So I accept the situation. Now, there is one other thing I'd like to do within the top 5 because it is the first time we're doing this feature. Let's do another one. How about this one? All right. Give us your top 5 smartest players. Top 5 smartest players.
Mark, you want to lead off on this one? Go ahead.
So I'm gonna be very, very critical of this word smart, and I'll tell you why. When I think of the word smart, there are. Let's talk first about talent, right? I'm not sure what talent is, so I'm sure there's a definition, but somehow there's always a correlation between hard work and talent, right? So the guys that are talented, most talented, have the best lateral speed, hit the ball the hardest. Somehow they put in more time than everyone else. So what I want to look at when we talk about smart are players that won at a high level that didn't necessarily have all the physical attributes.
Okay,
great point, right? So, I mean, one guy who the further and further I get away from his career, the more impressed I am, especially because he had such a broad effect on other players, is Gus Trevino. And so here's a guy, and Jim, how well do you remember Gus? Do you remember Gus well?
Gus was at the tail end of his career when I first started playing, but I did get a chance to see him, and of course I'm aware of his record, and it's actually really surprising that he does not get more Hall of Fame votes than he does.
So Gus was probably at his peak right when I was early going on in the game, and he was already winning tour events left and right with Lafredo. He had one with Spear, and so here's the thing about Gus. He didn't, in terms of lateral speed, power, he didn't have any of that. I mean, he was probably had one of the weakest pull shots you could ever imagine. But his effect on goalies, strategics, minimal effort, minimal movement, and getting the most optimally out of defense, breaking down offensive 3-bar, clearing the ball every time, making the big pass or shot. That guy was on point every single time. He won. I seen him win and help Todd win so many times when Todd was in the gutter. I seen him do it for Jeep. I seen him do it for Spear. The dude was just brilliant. And you look at what he did for defenses. You could say that Bobby Diaz's defense is a carbon copy of most of the things that Gus did. So I don't have to put Gus at number 5 for smartest players, and that's based on ability versus winning record and what he did to other players mentally in the game.
That's a great call, and I did not consider Gus, but once you brought him up, and once I started thinking about him and my memories of him, I think it's a terrific choice by Mark Torres, a guy that didn't necessarily have that big long from goalie, and he was a goalie. Although I believe he actually won a forward shootout competition on the TS Tour in 1979, if my memory is correct. But that's surprising, right? And that, again, it's a testament to how smart of a player he was. His record was sensational. Won a couple of world championships with Lafredo and with Spear. Super smart goalie, and a great choice by you, and an unexpected choice. And again, a testament to Mark Torres' vast knowledge of the history of the game. My number 5 was a guy that I kind of saw really blossom. He was out of San Diego, California. I was living in Los Angeles, in fact, and it's Terry Moore. Terry, maybe the player of the 1990s. I remember I was at a tournament in, I think, in 1988 at Yankee Doodles in Long Beach, California. And it was a $2,500 tournament for the weekend, and all the San Diego guys had come up. And I drew a Terry Moore in the Friday night draw. And when I saw who I drew, I went, oh, not that big guy from San Diego. He's awful. He's terrible. And he walked up to the table. I said, hey, get back there and do the best you can, okay? And 2 years later, he was the best player in the world. And it was really a remarkable transition. It was documented in the movie when he and Robert Morris and Evan Stachlik and Bill Partridge hit the road in the van. And Terry sort of revolutionized or helped revolutionize the sport with the snake shot. But Terry was an extremely smart player. Not only on the 5, underrated 5, one of the best 5s of all time. On the 3 row, it was either a straight or he'd rock to a corner, far side or near side. But a guy who had such a great feel for the game and an understanding of what the correct move to make in the next situation was. So I have at number 5, I have Terry Moore.
Great choice. So, Mark, number 4, what do you think? Most intelligent player, smartest player?
My number 4, and this might be low for this guy, my number 4 is Tom Spear. And Tom Spear is, from in my memory, and remember, my memory foosball starts around 88, 8 or 9, 89. He had
goes away from every Las Vegas tournament. Yep.
Right. It just drops. But he was the first player that I remember he created a systematized approach to the game. He had a systems approach to the game. And so that was like foosball in where I'm from in East Side San Jose was a hacking endeavor where you maybe worked on a couple things and you try to get things, and we didn't even have the skill set in my environment, my culture of foosball, to think of simple things like passing the ball, of a lane pass and a wall pass from the same location. That was like ahead of our time. So we're talking about Tom Spear, and you remember foosballers that Lafredo's listening to that cassette.
Yes.
About when to shoot, timing, and is basically set the ball up, and anytime he tells you what hold to shoot, that was his approach to the game before trying to market that approach to the game. So, and once again, we talk about a guy who didn't have blazing lateral speed and didn't have overwhelming compression on the ball, but he hit the ball really well. He stroked the ball good. His 5-bar was amazing, but he outthought you. He outthought you at every level, and he had an organized method to attack you with the game that for me was new and brilliant. My number 4.
Yeah, at number 4, I also have Tom Spear. 1994 World Championships, truly a memorable event when he won on the tornado table, and all the Colorado players lifted him up onto his shoulders. And again, Mark talked about his 5-row, and that really was the key to Tom's game. His ability to get the ball. And it really influenced so many players afterwards. Scotty Weidman, who also probably would make a top 10 all-time 5-row list, was a student of Tom Spear, as so many of the Colorado players were. And Tom would just get it done on the 3-row, using timing, using precision, not using, as Mark said, compression and lateral speed and strength or athleticism, if you will. But he was a guy that really understood the game at another level that many of us still don't get. Mark talked about that cassette tape that Todd Lafredo was listening to.
Yes.
On the flip side of that cassette tape, by the way, was Tom's rendition of Foosball Hero. The song that was made famous by was it Foreigner? jukebox hero, and so you got to hear him sing on the flip side of it. But it was a training tape that was used by so many players to really improve their game, and you saw Lafredo utilizing it in the movie. So number 4 for me as well, Mr. Tom Spear.
So Mark, we're off to number 3 on the smartest players of all time.
I struggled with this one, and I believe that for me, the number 3 smartest player is Steve Murray. And Steve had this duality to him, right? So Steve was an engaged, emoting fireball. I mean, he was. I've seen Steve do things that I will not admit on this show. And I was a young player, and this guy was a machine. And he's left-handed, if you didn't know it. And his pull shot was smooth anyway. And over time, of course, just time and wear takes its toll. But Steve, the wheels would be turning. The wheels would be turning, and you could see how he was calculating, how he was analyzing, how he was putting it together. And he put it all together. That's the thing I love about my icons of foosball from my youth, is the way they put it all together. No one really had the perfect game, except for, you could say, I'll get to him later, like the only person who really felt like they had the perfect game was Lafredo. Everybody else had some glaring quote unquote weakness, but they found other ways to do it. And Steve's way of doing it was out-grit you and out-think you. And he would outsmart you. He'd figure out your 5-bar. He'd crush you. And he'd out-think you on the 3-bar. And so it was really the analytics for me, for Steve, that puts him at my number 3.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I had Steve at number 6 on my list. But Terry Moore barely eked him out, and it was a very tough decision. But again, in continuing with your theme of guys that weren't necessarily the most athletic on the table, but got the most out of their ability using their brain, Steve Murray's certainly one of the smartest players of all time. In many ways, he knew how to table management. He knew how to work the opponent. He knew how to really value every possession. Mm-hmm. The 5-roll was great. Didn't have the big overpowering pull shot, but got it done, and got it done with grit and determination and fire. My number 3, it's actually a 3-way tie for my number 3.
Nice.
I've got 3 guys who, in Ryan Moore, Billy Pappas, and Tony Sprayman, who always get such credit for being these incredible talents, athletic, etc. And they are. They're 3 of the greatest players of all time. I've got probably all 3 of them in my top 5 all-time players. But they're also extremely smart players, Mark and Tom and Brad. And this gets overlooked because they are so good on the table. They have taken it to new heights. They've really set the bar high. And they're so athletic on the table in their own particular ways, but also very smart players. So I've got the triumvirate of Ryan Moore, Billy Pappas, and Tony Sprayman at number 3.
So I have to call a technical on you here, Jim.
Right. What is this? You're cheating, man.
I have to, hold on a second here. Now, I know that these guys represent the new generation, or the current generation of great players, but how is it you managed to fit 3 players into one one position here? I'm a little
There's one reason, Tom. One reason and one reason only, and that's because I didn't want to leave Tom Spear and Terry Moore out, and I really just wanted to illuminate. I really wanted to illuminate the fact that these guys don't get the credit due to them for being as smart as Ryan Moore, an incredibly smart player. Billy Pappas, maybe the most talented player the sport has ever seen, but also really smart. Also really lazy. Also really lazy at times.
Yeah,
Billy could take 64th in open singles, or he could win open singles at the World Championships. And Tony Sprayman, of course, you're dazzled with his physical game. But that physical game, the backbone of his physical athletic game, is his mental approach to it.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
If I can second you real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I get to my number 2, let me just validate you real quick on your three choices for number 3. I had the great pleasure of playing Tony. So I was Billy, and I played Tony and Robbie. And the first match and the second match were wildly different. And it was because Tony made adjustments between the first match and the second match. But I'll say this, even in the first match, I hadn't been tested at that level cerebrally with the game in a decade. I had not played. That was a big pit matches for 5th. And it's just in the span of the changes from how his mind works, from the first 3 seconds of look, like from the first half second looking at the goal, and where his mind changes directions on how he's going to score on you on his 3-bar. I'd have to write it down to explain to you the formula he was using that I had to kind of figure out, wrap my head around. So we're talking about really, really smart players that are not just running and gunning. So I think those are great choices, Jim. Are we getting to my number 2 now? Is that where we are?
That's where we're
Yeah,
at.
I think Mark gets he gets a free throw, I think, because of my technical foul. So
yeah, right. So my number 2 player is Rico, and I mentioned this before in Fooscast prior. So there's different ways to shoot your 3-bar. I'm going to focus on the 3-bar for a second, but it's much more than that. I talk about like a front toe, whether it's a wrist shot or a rollover, and there's beat you way. Like I call Billy Pappas's 3-bar a beat you. He's so fast laterally, he can get to the hole before you can get there. And then there's other types of more people that don't necessarily beat you. They fake you off the hole. They anticipate a hole. They time you off a hole. They outthink you off a hole. You think about Rico's 3-bar and how smart you have to be to shoot at a 90 to 100% clip and shoot the angles and shoot the dinks and shoot both sides. He's outthinking you. You don't get lucky shooting like that on his 3-bar. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, the guy, you talk about his multi-table world championships. He has the game in every facet thought out. He has a backup plan for his backup plans. He's just a brilliant, brilliant player in every regard of the game and takes analytics to a whole new level. That's my number 2.
Yeah, that's a pretty good choice for number 2, I suppose. I have Todd Lafredo at number 2. Lafredo, of course, one of the great players of all time, spans 40 plus years of excellence on so many different tables here on the American Tour. Todd Lafredo also, many people don't know, also won world championships internationally on the Garlando table, a 2-time world champion on Garlando. Also won a world championship with Collignon on the tech ball table in Germany. Of course, a multiple gold medal winning player as well. Certainly an incredibly smart player, an incredibly influential player in so many ways for so many players, including my number 1. But I have Todd Lafredo, the greatest American player of all time, at least right now, at number 2.
Wow, it's almost like it's funny because I asked Todd last year when we talked to him on Foosball Radio who he thought the number 1. Well, we thought of him as the number 1 player. We like, you are the all-time greatest player. He's, oh no, that would be Fred. Fred's the greatest, and so he argues about that. But I beg to differ. I disagree with Todd. I think that he is the greatest.
And apparently so does Mark Torres.
Well, so we're talking about different things. I think the greatest foosball player of all time is Federico. I think the smartest player. I'll give that to Todd. Let me tell you why I give it to Todd. So if you look at the people that Todd took under his wing, and we could broaden this idea of intelligence, Todd has had to stay relevant from 1977 or whenever the hell it was to now. And the way he's done that is he's part of his embedding himself in foosball has been developing great players. So although we could probably say that Rico was going to win world championships no matter what on Tornado, it was going to happen. He was going to partner with the right person. He was going to figure it out on his own. We cannot underestimate Lafredo's impact on Rico, his approach to his game, his expanded repertoire, the analytics. We don't know how responsible Todd is for developing Rico into reaching his peak. And we can't, it's hard to tell. We can't even say if Rico has hit his peak yet because his career's not over. For all we know, Rico could come back and win 10 more world championships, or he could win 100 more in Europe, whatever he's doing over there. Point being, is Lafredo has really been the bridge of all these great players. You have Terry Moore on your list. I got Tom Spear on my list. These are all people that Todd has. Yeah. These are all people that Lafredo has touched and groomed and developed. So he's so responsible for the intellect, the broad knowledge of the game. I couldn't help but make him number 1.
All right. No, I like it. Yeah, of course. How can you not have that opinion? And some will. I don't. My opinion, of course, as you say, Todd Lafredo absolutely influenced Frederic Collignon. Frederic Collignon would not be Frederic Collignon if it were not for Todd Lafredo. When they first paired up back in 1998, he had such an influence. Now, I've asked them both. I've said, Todd, who is the greatest player in the history of the sport? He says Frederic Collignon. I've asked Fred. I've said, Fred, who's the greatest? He says, Todd Lafredo. And so they both think the other is. For me, yes, as you said, Mark, Todd Lafredo has influenced Frederic Collignon extensively, no question about it. But then Fred, with his own particular style of thinking, and he is a different guy. Anybody who knows Frederic Collignon he's a different kind of guy. He's absolutely a foosball genius plus. So Lafredo gave Collignon everything he had, and Fred absorbed it. But then Fred took it to that next level because of his own particular type of genius, wherever that comes from. Absolutely so smart on every rod. And we may talk about this tonight or next week, but Frederic Collignon also an incredible goalie. Okay?
Yep, right.
An incredible goalie. Overseas on the international tables, he is absolutely, you can't score on him. He's going to score 2 per game. One time in Las Vegas, and I don't know exactly the year, 2009, 2008, somewhere in there, Todd Lafredo and Frederic Collignon decided to play the entire event with Lafredo at forward and Collignon at goal. Well, they ended up winning the championship in Las Vegas against a very, very deep field with Lafredo at forward and Collignon at goal. No one in any game scored more than 3 goals against their team. They didn't lose a single game, won the championship. Lafredo, of course, a great forward, great goalie. But Collignon did not allow more than 3 goals in any game, and they won it going away. And again, a testament, crazy. Of course, he had incredible hand speed, but incredible brain speed as well.
Statistically speaking, is that an all-time record when it comes to tending goal?
I've never seen it before. No, I've seen teams go a couple of times. There's been cases of a team going undefeated throughout an event or a player going almost undefeated throughout an event. But in that one with Collignon playing the first time ever on the American tour entirely a goalie, and I mean every single ball of that event.
That's crazy.
And again, a testament to a guy who is, as Mark said, he is the greatest player of all time, but certainly a strong argument can be made for Lafredo, and Mark made that. But a very interesting list, and you can extend that one down probably to 15 or 20. I've got some honorable mentions, guys like Tommy Atkinson, who is Tommy Atkinson, so clever on the table. The great Doug Furry, and Brad, I know again a man from up in your neck of the woods who was just such a smart player.
Oh, absolutely.
Tony Bacon, great 5, didn't have a huge. This would work on your list, Mark. A guy that didn't have a big, powerful, long goal shot. Right. But a guy who knew how to get the ball, knew how to pick the holes. And in a modern era, let's not forget about a guy like Rick Macias, who always seems to get in there 3 to 5, somewhere in that top 5, really without a great shot, with a great 5, but really a smart, clever player who understands all the nuances of the game. So, good points. And one other guy, a guy that probably was number 7 on my list and a good friend of yours, Mark, Lewis Kirkland.
Yeah, no, he's on my list.
Extremely smart singles player, smart goalie, smart forward, a guy who won a world singles championship, also won a world doubles championship as a goalie. And that doesn't happen a lot. That's happened only one other time. Really, Doug Furry, I believe, won the super singles and also won world championships with Jim Wiswell. But as you say, Mark, it isn't always about athleticism. Table management and intelligence, strategic intelligence is so important as well.
Brad, who do you got, for smartest player, who do you got 1 and 2?
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys cover the list pretty well. Again, Jim brought it up as the guy that I was thinking of is Lewis Cartwright. And kind of, I guess, what criteria I would use, at least just personally, is because I got to, get the opportunity to talk to these guys and really kind of talk foosball with them. And the guys that really made an impression on me, just, again, their ability to analyze the game and strategize. And like I say, Lewis Cartwright was a guy that I remember I interviewed on the Table Sports Radio and really impressed me with his kind of a psychological take too. Because I remember asking him, when him and Trevor Park had that run of 2-3 years when they were, making finals, but just couldn't get over the hump. And his analysis of what happened there, it was really kind of interesting to listen to him, and very, very smart guy.
Yeah, and looking at the chat here, Tracy McMillan pipes in. Of course, Tracy also an extremely smart player. But, these days, Brandon Moreland, and again, we often forget about how smart of a player Brandon Moreland is as well. Yep. A guy these days who really breaks it down, really understands the game extremely well. So let's not forget about him. And thanks Tracy, for enlightening us on that one as well. And Tracy, of course, extremely smart.
I'm just going to add that I think this feature is something we can do every week. It's the top 5, the FoosTalk Live top 5. So just to recap, when we talked about the top 5 choices for lady foosball players of all time. Jim, you chose Liz Hill, Lori Schrantz, Maya Thielens, Tina Roten, and Cindy Head. That was your top 5.
Yep, 5-1. Yep.
Gina Murray was 5 for Mark. Joyce Stewart, Liz Hill, Moya Thielens, and Cindy Head. Of course, there was a great consensus for the number 1 player, of course. And then for the smartest players, Jim, you chose Terry Moore, Tom Spear, Ryan, Tony, and Billy.
That's garbage.
Got to wonder about that. And Alfredo, and then of course Fred Collignon was your number 1, and then Mark, Gus Trevino, Tom Spear, Steve Murray, Fred Collignon, Frederico Collignon, and Todd Lafredo. Wow, extraordinary stuff. I look forward to doing this every week with you guys. You guys are just full of knowledge here. I'm getting an education, to say the least.
Well, you're taking notes, obviously, which is good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
when in doubt, lean on Jim. I make up half the shit I say on this. Sorry, that's bomb. It's all just made up, man. I don't even know these people. I don't know what Lafredo is.
Well, we'll chalk it up to the 40 proof. How's that sound?
That's it.
There you go. But no, again, Mark Torres showing his understanding of the historical aspect of the game. And it's nice to have Brad as well, give his perspective. Brad, Brad Anderson, for those of you who don't know, first started playing the game in the late 70s up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, the Twin Cities, which was such a hotbed with so many great players coming out of that Nut Goody system and then out on the TS Tour. And Brad was kind of hanging out with those guys at that time, then took many years off before he came back to the tour. But Brad also quite the historian. And Brad, talk a little bit about your early days of foosball.
Well, I like to tell people is that when I started playing is when we used to release ourselves on our own recognizance from class in high school.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean there was a local bowling center that had a game room, and again we just kind of decided that maybe we didn't go to class that particular period, and but it was a place that people hung out on Friday nights and things like that, but. Got introduced to the game by a couple of guys and thought it was okay at first, but then started playing a little more. And what really got me interested, and you mentioned the Nut Goody tournaments, these were held at area shopping malls. A lot of them were. And I was at one of them one particular day, and there happened to be a foosball tournament going on in the main area of the shopping mall. And wandering by, managed to stop and watch a match, and it just happened to have been a good friend of Jim and mine is Ken Allwell.
Yeah.
And he was playing and watching him shoot a push kick, and that absolutely fascinated me, and it stuck with me for a long, long time. And that's really kind of, and then just started picking it up. I hung out in an arcade, and I worked there for a while, and just started picking up the game, and then eventually getting to meet a lot of the guys, the area. When you're talking about Jim Wiswell, Doug Furry, Dave Gumpson was a up and comer. He was the young guy there, but I mean, there were so many guys. Ken Allwell, again, it's Brent Bednar, Mike Bells, all these guys, and they all ended up being world champions. I will admit, a lot of the guys. And there was no way that I was anywhere close to competing with these guys, but it was fun, and you learned a lot by getting your ass kicked every week. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these guys, in fact, I probably know better from playing softball with them than I do for foosball, but at least at the time. But it was such an environment that you could learn from, and again, a lot of really good players came out of that area in the late 70s. So it's, and I took 16 years off, things like work and having kids and things like that.
Yeah.
But
you mentioned two guys there though, that have to be included in maybe the top 10 all time smartest players. Doug Furry, who is right there at the top 5, maybe top 10 smartest players ever. Ken Allwell, also extremely smart player. These guys, but of course in the 1970s, you had to be a smart player to be able to succeed on the tournament soccer tour. And you mentioned a couple of them there, really in the early days of foosball, the Minnesota part of the early days. There were several hot spots of foosball that sort of developed from 1974 and 75 on. including Texas and the Pacific Northwest and Denver
Right.
and Minneapolis. These were really your biggest areas, Florida being another.
Yeah,
but a lot of
the
very
real
smart players.
The real early stars of foosball, a lot of them came out of Minnesota. Guys like Billy Sumption, originally from South Dakota, but he spent a lot of time in Minnesota. Tom Hansen was another guy.
Yeah.
There's a few others. So, and these guys were the really kind of a lot of at least the northern players. You had a lot of pioneers that came out of Texas stuff, but as far as northern players, again, guys like Billy Sumption and Tom Hansen were guys that really kind of set a professional standard for the game.
They
and
did.
That really kind of going now.
They did. And yet we talked about the Nut Goody program. Nut Goody, I guess, was a candy that sponsored a school program that had something like 10,000 players in the state of Minnesota playing in the late 1970s. Yeah. And out of that Nut Goody school program, it produced 5 different Hall of Fame players. Yep. Eventually, not just great players, but Hall of Fame players out of that Nut Goody program of the late 1970s.
Wiswell Furry, Brent Bednar, Mike Bells, Ken Allwell played in that, as well. So, it was an amazing time. It was all high school players. It was a high school program.
Reminiscent, of course, of what John O'Brien is doing these days.
Yes.
You talked about you're taking some time off from school to go play foosball. Well, these days you actually stay in school so that you can play foosball after school or during the lunch hour, thanks to John O'Brien and Foosball Clubs USA. And for those of you listening, please head over to foosballclubsusa.com to become a partner in this very important program, a donor, or find out how you can create a program in your area as well.
I hope there's another opportunity. I know it's a lot of romanticized view of foosball, but I know the arcades put a huge dent in foosball. The arcades are dead now. All this gaming has moved to console gaming or PC, and it really feels like foosball can have an opportunity here to revive now that the core gaming is becoming obsolete, if it isn't already. You don't see many people firing quarters into video games these days. So I wonder if there's a time for resurgence, a way to bring it back into the environment.
Mark, I think that's an excellent point. In fact, the untimely pandemic we're currently experiencing really came just as we here in the Northeast started to see a huge resurgence in interest in what we were doing in our local and regional tournaments. And it just seems it's disappointing in so many ways because it's taken the fire out of it all. But I think there's going to be a pent-up demand by the time we finally get back to playing formally.
I hope so.
Well, I was just going to say that one victim of the pandemic has been Chuck E. Cheese. So there's another of your arcade type environments that have fallen by the wayside. Although it was a little more family oriented, I guess you want to put it. But
good point. I mean, the key for arcades is always making money. They've got to find a way to make money. Foosball. The problem with foosball. Yeah, I remember times in the late 1970s in Southern California when I would go to the Redondo Beach Pier or the Old Town Mall, and there would be 30 tables set up, 30 tournament soccer tables, and on a Saturday night, they were 4 deep in quarters. You had to wait to play on that many tables. And then, of course, when video games came along in the early 1980s, that was part of what really was the beginning of the end for professional table soccer for the TS Tour. But it was sort of a love-hate thing. Those arcades wouldn't have existed without the early video games, probably, and with all those foosball tables. And then, of course, it was partially responsible for the end of that tour and the end of arcades as we know it, at least in terms of foosball.
Well, this is a formula that we're currently trying to calculate, right? It's something that, okay, what are the ingredients we need here to really start to rebuild this phenomenal sport? I think Foosballers being on ESPN was huge as far as just getting the attention of the audience. I understand somebody mentioned to me this last week that they heard one of the football announcers on ESPN mention he had watched the Foosballers. Wow. And they joked about it, foosball, really? Yeah, and it was a great film, and so it's getting attention from those folks at ESPN, those quote unquote elite announcers there. So
and we can also look ahead here in the next what is this? Almost the end of June. within the next 2 months, I promise you, folks, we will be on ESPN again.
Oh, nice. Very
promising.
Nice. Very nice. Okay.
What's your insight? In what iteration? The documentary again, or some other?
No,
capacity?
It'll be a different iteration. Yes,
Yeah.
It'll be a different a different thing. And I'm not at liberty to discuss it too deeply at this point, but look for it. Look for it coming
Jim,
up.
You probably already ruined it. You probably signed an
months,
NDA and just
right.
screwed it up for everybody. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Hey, there's more coming. There's more coming, and then probably more coming.
Oh, well.
It's going to be the return of the Foosball Master Tour.
Well, that's coming too. You are correct about that.
Don't even tell me that.
I could probably get some people to quit their jobs. I could probably call Fernando right now. Hey, dude, there's some big shit happening on ESPN. Quit your job. Just quit right now, man.
It's coming.
Hey, I'm not doing nothing.
Hey,
I'm
Tom,
not.
I think we've lost control here.
I know it's falling apart quickly.
Just like old times, right, Mark?
Yeah. It's always my fault, by the way.
Dad yelling at us again.
Yeah, again, though, Tom, real quick here. Brad Anderson, who has worked more matches than anyone ever has with me. Mark Torres, who sensational, great commentator, and also a horrible commentator at times.
All true.
You keep saying that.
Guilty.
Depending on which, whether he's between drink 6 and 9 or 9 and 12. But we had, I guess what I'm really getting to, and I don't really mean that, Mark. I mean, I still, both of you guys are probably my two favorite commentators I've ever worked with. Hope Tom Yours not listening.
Just not at the same time.
Tom Yours is boring. Go ahead.
How much fun, guys, did we have in the Inside Foos booth, whether it was Las Vegas, whether it was in Dallas, Texas. We're up there behind a screen, best seat in the house, for the biggest matches, some of them the biggest matches in the sport's history. And obviously, it's on record what we did as far as the commentary goes. But in between matches and just hanging out up there in the Inside Foos booth, the conversations we would have about foosball, about everything, were priceless and such great memories. I'm sure you both feel the same way as well.
Yeah. Well, I did put up a video. I did put up a video. I took a lot of the kind of extra stuff from 2006, and when we streamed that tournament. There's not that much foosball being played in the video, but there's an awful lot of chatter. And I believe that was the first time we took phone calls.
Oh, yeah.
We did take live phone calls. In fact, Tom, do we have time for another phone call or two? If anyone has any additions to our top 5 lists?
No, I didn't
didn't
want to spoil the party and invite somebody else, but yeah, let's do that. If you're listening to FoosTalk Live, and of course I know you are, and you've got something you'd like to say to these guys, especially about their choices for the top 5 this week, by all means, jump in here. There is an open space, and you can join us anytime you'd like. FoosTalk Live, of course, is coming from the studios of Foosball Radio and Inside FoosTV, something that we have, shall we say, conceived of. Jim, is that the best way to put it? Conceived of this to get us through this pandemic and really have something to focus on when it comes to this sport of foosball while we wait it out, so to speak.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, I was thinking about it earlier today, and the amount of time that we're all taking off from tournaments is probably going to cost us a few tour players, people who maybe don't have tables at home. But really, what we're trying to do here with FoosTalk Live and with the other ventures that we're doing at Inside FoosTV and Foosball Radio is to keep players connected, to kind of continue to keep them interested and excited about the sport of foosball as we eventually return to the tour. I got a text just a few minutes ago from Alan Reese, who is the promoter of the Battle in the Mountains, which is scheduled for August 7th through 9th in Asheville, North Carolina. He says he has already over 100 rooms booked for that event, and he's looking at more than 200 players in what could be the return to the Pro Tour. It's still so many unknowns, I think, between now and then to whether it will actually happen. But for now, it's a go. And apparently there is interest. And, and that was another thing I thought about earlier today, and maybe you guys can pipe in on this as well. If we do have a world championship, and if Mary Moore is listening, maybe she can get a little bit of a read on the current environment. But if Mary Moore goes forward with her world championship, how many players will be there? What's your over under on this? Now, normally, I mean, I think last year there were 500 players at the Tornado World Championships. But how many players are going to be able to go back to that environment, to coming into a large crowd, coming from all over the country, all over North America? How many players are going to be able to do that? How many players are going to be ready for that? What is your over under on the number of players who would come to a World Championship at the beginning of September?
Oh, you want to take those on, Mark, or should I?
Well, I'm in the healthcare industry, but I'm also regionally. The way this pandemic is observed is it's so regional. Like the perceptions of it are different based on if you knew someone who got sick or not. So you get real oddities, and it's a tough question. What's going to functionally happen is people are going to get the common flu, but not sure if they have the common flu or not. So there's going to be concerns about how sick people are because we have a natural flu season oncoming. So I really am at a loss to know. And then you have things going on with resources and whether or not people can functionally afford to do it. And you still have questions about airfare and are people going to drive there. I think you could get half the people there. I think half is a fair, maybe conservative. You might be able
about
to get
250.
250 or 2/3. You can get 2/3. It really depends on. There's a lot of variables, and a lot of it is math related. Like how sick are people really getting? The numbers.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mark. I think the impediments that I see for people not going, obviously travel is going to be tougher. If you're flying, it's all going to come down to restrictions. It's going to come down to restrictions of the tournament or conditions, playing conditions. Do you have to wear a mask while you're playing? Or they're going to put plexiglass around the table? Whatever it's going to be. As far as number of players, would you say 250? I would say probably not even that. Somewhere in between 200 and 225. And some people are going to stay away because there may not be a good attendance, and I think she's basing a lot of it on rooms, and so the money is iffy, things like that.
Yeah. So it also depends on the state law, correct? I mean, state law will dictate whether or not this actually takes place.
Absolutely.
Right. And Mark pointed out how different it is regionally in so many different parts of America, whether that's politically or based on medical records in that state or whatever. Always trying to balance the economy versus the number of deaths.
Right.
Yep.
And so there's so many things involved and so many unknowns still to come. But you also have to really schedule these things and act as if they are going to happen and hope that they're going to happen and target that they're going to happen until they say you can't.
Right. And looking at the again, the last week or so, just kind of a resurgence of positive tests for in various parts of the country, but we're over 2 months away, so who knows what's going to happen between then? Could get better, could get worse. This whole thing is such a confusing situation. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah, and with things spiking, I know California just once again shut down their bars in 7 different counties, including Los Angeles here just today. So there's so many unknowns, and Tracy McMillan pipes in that she is saying that she has as many rooms sold as she did last year, and if that's the case, then it sounds like the event could take place. But again, as Tom brought up, I believe it was Tom, but are we going to have plexiglass? Are we going to have, what kind of social distancing will there be? And, there's, again, one day at a time, we'll see what happens. We'll see how this all goes. Still so many unknowns.
One thing that they want to strongly consider is, I think so there's face shields and face masks, and I work in operating rooms, right? So a face mask, in my humble opinion, whether it's a cloth mask or a sterile clean mask, those are stifling. It will be stifling to play in. However, a face shield, what I mean, that's a plastic shield that goes over your head with a band, that will probably check the boxes because it's still aspiration, right? It's still it's still droplets, but it's going to protect it just as well as a cloth mask would, and it's easier to breathe. It's not stifling, and you're still containing your own breathing and your own exposure risk. So that might be a better choice. And if they could do that, I don't know what the regulations are in Kentucky, but if you could wear a face shield as opposed to a face mask, that'd be much more tenable to play in. I don't see people playing for hours and hours and hours with a mask on. I just don't see that.
And I don't see how they can have that many tables in that small of an area either in that particular hotel. So, maybe I can't tell Mary what to do, but for me, again, because of that spacing, maybe she just simply can't put that many tables in. Do you drop events? Do you play in the parking lot? I don't know. But you're going to have to. It's going to take longer. Let's put it that way.
But check out Michael Stahl's Facebook page. I know at his local location up in Michigan, he showed 3 tables set up with plexiglass hanging down the center from the light, which could be something that potentially could work. And again, it's about finding solutions for things that don't seem to have them.
Yeah,
but that could be one of them.
Well, I like the face shield idea, Mark. I think that's a good one. That's something I would go with that for sure. No, it's tough. I mean, even for smaller groups in regional parts of the country where you get 10, 15 people together, and that's taking a chance right there too. I mean, that's even though let's say your part of the country is not as rampant currently, that can change in a heartbeat, it seems.
Yeah, Mark, you have some medical expertise here. What are your thoughts on that?
Which piece specifically?
So if you're doing a local, regional kind of group of people getting together, let's say for a weekend, like just a local DYP, 10 to 15 people. I mean, what are the risks? Equivalent to having a larger group?
Well, it's tough to say because if you look at the hard math, there are quite a few people that are asymptomatic, and that number is a rising number of people that are asymptomatic. The risks are, and I've been anecdotally from like 1 degree removed. We have a friend who went out and the bachelor party, and 12 of the 17 people tested positive for COVID. Right. So now,
wow,
of the 12 people, I don't know the exact number. I think it is like 7 of them are asymptomatic. But of the other 5, they're really, really sick. So we're talking about 105-degree fever, multiple days. And so we don't know really the algorithm or the formula. And we can't make sense right now about who's going to have a really, really bad flu. Right. And so, the numbers say that some segment of the population, a high degree, are going to be asymptomatic. Some people are going to get really, really sick. The numbers say that it's more virulent than the common flu, that people get more sick than the common flu, and the mortality rate is higher amongst elderly people than the common flu. So those are all pretty fact-based themes. So I think the risk is high. I think it's also high that you're asymptomatic, and then you own the part where you're getting someone else sick, and you put someone else elderly at risk. Those are the things we have to own. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, exactly. And then you think about a DYP at the World Championships, and there's several of them. Obviously, if you have a doubles partner you're coming to the event with, perhaps their history, their contact history. But if you're going into an event, you're playing in a DYP, you're going to be drawing someone, playing with someone who you don't know, coming from another part of the country. Is this the end of the DYP, at least for now?
Interesting.
We've all been in that room on a Saturday night, though, in a ballroom, and it can be awfully crowded in there.
Yeah.
So I just don't see how that is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been a great conversation with both of you guys tonight. Obviously, Tom, I think it was a lot of fun and a lot of success there with those top 5 lists. And we've decided I think we're going to make that a weekly thing.
No more pop quizzes.
So Mark, and
no more pop quizzes.
You want to be prepared, right? But a lot of fun there. We've also touched on the upcoming tournaments with Alan Reese in the beginning of August, still scheduled for the Battle of the Mountains in North Carolina. And, of course, the Tornado Worlds is still scheduled. I know Michael Stahl has a Michigan State event in October. I was actually contacted about working an event in Kansas City in October as well. So we'll see what happens. But you got to schedule them. You got to kind of plan for them. And then wait and see what happens. Yep.
Hey, Mark.
Yes,
Mark,
sir.
when are you going to nominate Jim Stevens to do push-ups?
That might be next, man.
What's this?
I've already been nominated.
Brad, tell me. What do you mean push-ups?
Tell him, Mark.
Yeah, I've never ever participated in these Facebook kind of like do something for
I call
a
them
cause.
chain letters.
Yeah, it's basically
yes.
a chain letter. But PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, disorder rather, is a big deal, man. I mean, like a large percentage of the population suffers from some type of post-traumatic stress. Veterans, female victims of assault. So this thing went around about doing 25 push-ups to drive awareness. It's really caught on in the foosball community.
Oh.
Adrian Zamora, Lewis Cartwright, Brian King, Rico, James Castillo. And so if you've been nominated, Jim, unless you're like, I don't know, too cool for school, you should get on the ground and do some push-ups, man.
like me, you mean?
You sound like my wife.
I'm all over that. I nominate Jim.
I nominate Jim.
Oh boy,
dude, Brad. So Lewis Cartwright, he's probably like 350 right now. Legit, he's weighing 350. He's doing these things on his knees, man. Nothing's more inspiring than seeing Lewis Cartwright and Brian King doing push-ups on their knees.
No, we were having a little fun on our Facebook chat, but I'm so happy to see him just making an attempt because believe me, it's. Well,
Tom, I'll do it if you do it, buddy.
Yeah,
it's nothing like that. The ice water thing they were doing 2 years ago? Dumping.
I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do the ice water thing.
This might be a little more beneficial.
Right.
I just have an automatic resistance to these sorts of things. And the chain letter thing really applies well. I just immediately say no. I'm not doing it. Plus, I have 2 small children, and I'm not exactly a young man. But we'll see what happens. Tom, if you do it, I'll do it.
Oh, okay.
All right, Tom. I'm nominating you, and then that's it. It's going to be formal on Facebook. It'll be documented so that people know whether or not you're a coward.
So you have to
do that way.
video. Set up a camera and do 25. Take 25.
Yeah, don't worry, man. I got you. We're friends now. I got you.
Tom can do that with one hand. I promise you.
Or just send Mark shirtless pictures.
It's been a while. No, it's funny because all the gyms are closed, so you can't. You have to do something. If it was yoga, that's a different deal. I'm down with that. But
25 minutes of yoga. That's no. I'm not doing that. No.
Well, or you can get out of it by sending Mark a shirtless picture.
Come on, Log. What's up? That's just as good as a push-up.
Yeah. No. Thank you. 25 minutes of downward dog, everybody. Let's go. I'm feeling it.
From behind.
Right.
Have we gotten off topic?
I think we have.
A little bit.
That's all right.
Did we ever really have one?
We tried. We tried.
I act like that's an unusual thing for this crew, but it's not.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's why we have Tom here. Tom is the voice of reason. Tom, please take over.
I shall. And so, FoosTalk Live. You have been listening to FoosTalk Live, and I want to thank Brad, of course, for joining us this evening. Mark, everything is advertised. Let's put it.
Oh no! You wait till we're drinking, then we'll see. All right, we'll see.
Look out. So, Jim, any parting shots before we close this thing down for the evening?
Well, I'd just like to remind everybody to head over to Inside FoosTV and please subscribe to our channel. We've got a couple of Nationals classics coming up here in the next week as we continue to release new content. Michael Stahl has produced a pro tips video that we're going to be putting up here in the next week or so. Lots of stuff coming up as we continue to try to keep the foosball world connected. And head over to InsideFoos.com to choose from more than 200 different video titles, season subscriptions, and, of course, the complete collection, a hard drive that includes 27 years of foosball matches, many of which include, of course, Brad Anderson and Mark Torres. So looking forward to the next few weeks as we grow closer to a potential restart of the Pro Tour. As we mentioned, Alan Reese, the Battle in the Mountains in Asheville, North Carolina, beautiful part of the country. He has a 5-star hotel set up there for that event. Says he has more than 100 rooms already booked. We'll see what happens as August 7th through 9th grows closer. But if it happens, I'll be there. If the Worlds happens, I'll be there as well with Inside Foos to cover it. And hopefully we can get one of these old guys, Mark or Brad, down there as well to pitch in and contribute to the broadcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Old.
Absolutely. Well, hey, it's a relative term. It's just a number.
I guess. Yeah. Mark's the pup in the room.
Is he really?
Oh yeah.
Barely. Whatever. I look like it. I got some Asian blood in me. I probably look 30 years younger than all you guys, but it's just even.
One quick thing I wanted to bring up too, and I don't know if there's any posted online at all, but Mark also kind of famous or infamous for his karaoke singing.
Oh,
yeah.
Really quite an accomplished karaoke singer, performer, and
exhibitionist.
Mark, is there exhibitionist? Is there anywhere
That's
that
right.
we can actually see some of your performances?
I will get you. So there's a video of me singing to 800 screaming Chinese gynecologists. No crap. In Asia, and to this day, I have no idea what percentage of people actually knew what I was singing.
Those are words that have probably. Those are words that probably have never been spoken before.
Anywhere.
I was blackout drunk, and there's video of it on YouTube. There's video of me singing on YouTube, and for your private viewing pleasure, I'll get you some of it.
Mark, I think this brings up a good point because we are looking for singers for our jingle package that we're going to be putting.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you're available for hire, we might consider you for that.
If you like pitchy, nasally, can't sing without the lyrics flashing in front of my face because I have the retention of a rabbit,
It's horrible.
then I'm right. I'm the guy for you.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be hearing from us.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
When's your new calendar coming out?
Oh, the fireman one?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-oh.
That was a classic.
I pretend to be a fireman sometimes. Anyway, let's move on, you guys.
We'll talk about that next week or next time we have Mark on. And Mark's a great contributor. Mark, has been great having you tonight. And of course, I guess you're going to have to come back for some more of these top 5 lists.
I hope so.
As well. So look forward to those. I've actually written down several different notes about Tom, about different topics that we could create top 5s on. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody who's listening currently wants to contribute an idea for a top 5 list, by all means, info@foosballradio.com. And Jim, your email?
Inside Foos1, Inside Foos and the number 1 at gmail.com. Yeah, we'd love to hear some choices, some opinions from those of you who are listening about what we should do top 5. And be careful now, it is Mark Torres out there. So, but there's so many different things we could do with this top 5 list, and I'm looking forward to it. And I guarantee you, Frederick Colignone's not going to be at the top of every one of my lists.
Okay.
Or Cindy Head.
Okay. Well, that's interesting to say the least. And by the way, I do need to toss in this disclaimer that the opinions expressed by Mark Torres on this show, the opinions of management of Foosball Radio or Inside FoosTV, just legally. Yeah, you're quite.
That's going to save you, buddy. That's not saving you from anything, but anyway.
Well, hey, thanks, Brad. Thanks, Mark. Really
Absolutely.
felt like 2005 in the Inside Foods booth down at the old Hyatt Hotel in Dallas Fort Worth Airport. We used to have a lot of fun, and we obviously still do.
Yes.
Okay, guys.
Great time, fellas. Thank you so much.
You're the best.
See you, fellas.
Brad, thank you so much for joining us tonight on FoosTalk Live.
You bet.
Good night, everybody. Bye now.
Happy 4th of July, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So, Jim, I think that we had a successful evening this evening.
Well, that was a workout, wasn't it? Boy.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely. But what a great team you've assembled over the years, and it's so nice that they're they're sober enough to speak on FoosTalk Live.
Barely, but it was a lot of fun, and of course the insights of both Brad and Mark have been important to the foosball community for a couple of decades, and it's great to get out and talk with those guys again, and we can look forward to these top 5 lists coming up. And again, folks, please call. Let us know what you think. Let us know your top 5s. Let us know anyone we have forgotten or overlooked, and I'm sure that's going to happen on a pretty regular basis. And thank you, Tom, for having so much patience with the rest of us here tonight.
Oh, not at all. It actually had a lot to do with my brewery Omegang this evening. So
there you go.
Yeah, that certainly softened the blow. But we do want to thank our sponsors for FoosTalk Live, including 518 Prints, one of the finest printers of promotional items. Find them at 518prints.com. Also brought to you by the Foosballers, the movie, the spectacular Joe Hesslinger documentary about the sport of foosball. Get your copy now at foosballersmovie.com. Also brought to you by Foosball Clubs USA, dedicated to promoting the sport through the school systems of America. Visit foosballclubsusa.com. foosball.com. And yes, Foos by Tony and Foos by Brandon, the Foos by system, which is now out there now. So you can get professional lessons from two of the top players in the world, Foos by Tony and Foos by Brandon.
Yeah, and you're not going to find two better teachers than those two. One last note about 518. I've actually been in contact with Jesse Brust there at 518 Prints, and
yes,
he has designed a new Inside FoosTV logo that we are going to be releasing soon, and we're going to be offering T-shirts and other merchandise available with that Inside FoosTV logo on it. And Jesse, again, showing that he really knows foosball, he really knows printing. I'm really pleased with my burgeoning relationship with 518 Prints.
Yeah, can't wait to see that. He does great work. I've just got to say, over the years, he's just been so solid and a huge foosball fanatic. So,
yep.
And it's threatening to get back on the tour.
Well, I hope so. He and Kevin Walker were really a strong team there for several years. And kind of hope to get Kevin back out. Kevin with a monster pull shot.
Yep.
To get him back out and out on tour, and Jesse as well.
Yep, Kevin's like you. He's raising, children, and they're both getting into foosball too. So it's exciting to see what the Walker household might produce in the near future.
There you go.
So once again, FoosTalk Live, coming to you from the studios of Foosball Radio and Inside FoosTV, production thereof. Jim, thank you so much for your extraordinary experience and being with me this evening.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Once again, great to spend some time with those guys. Looking forward to next week's show, Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll let you know who the guest is going to be, but can't wait for next week, Tom, and a lot of fun to spend some time with you and the guys tonight.
All right, we'll catch you next time.
See you, Foosing.